Hello, Spillin the Beans fans. This is another episode brought to you by Given Beans, the Football Supporters Association fanzine of the year. I'm going to say that for about at least another 6 podcasts, I think. And certainly still making me feel a bit good after a week of football. I mean, a week's a long time in football at the best of times, but my body's just about stopped aching from celebrating that late goal at Wigan on Saturday, and since then we've had another game, and we've lost the manager, so plenty to talk about. And as usual, I've got 2 fine Barra Soccer men here to chat with me about that. Fraser and Dave. Dave, how are you?
I don't know, Johnny. I don't know. After Saturday, I had such a lovely day on Saturday. It was it was a really good day out. Lots of lovely barrowness going on before and during and after the game. And then, here we are discussing yet another managerial departure. Here we go again.
Yeah. Fraser, I imagine you're feeling the same.
Yeah, similar. I'm just a bit confused, to be honest. As Dave said, Saturday was a good day out. Second half was super encouraging, and there's been another game of football since then. There are reasons for this happening. There are reasons why it potentially shouldn't have happened. We'll no doubt talk it through in a very light-hearted but critical sort of way over the next 45 minutes or so. Yeah, let's get into it.
That was the week that was. It's over. Let it go.
Well, there is a lot to let go. Dave, let's start with last night before we come to the obvious talking point, because it's a shame, really, that they kind of the way the footballing gods have aligned. Actually, I say footballing gods. I'm a Roman Catholic. I don't believe in that pagan nonsense. So, the old the cruel, twisted fate of Barra Soccer after what was a really good day on Saturday with a very positive second half. And I left that stadium really just feeling bitter about the whole FA Cup replay thing again, once again being kind of denied what was a well-earned replay at Holker Street, having to go to extra time where we just didn't seem to have the legs. The League One team, a bit of bigger and better squad, kicked on and won the penalty shootout. But, all in all, left feeling pretty good with a bit of optimism for Tuesday night, thinking we might be able to get back on track here after seeing some positive signs. And for 45 minutes, it seemed like that potentially could be the case, but then it all fell apart.
Yeah, I mean, my only footballing god is Colin Cabthwaite, and I had the very good fortune to actually meet him on the way back from Wigan. He was on the same train as me. Starstruck, got my photograph taken with him. He talked about Beans. He talked about the original Beans, and I heard about the award and what we were doing. And he'd kind of said that he was going to read the match report, but he was also going to, when he was told about the podcast, and I said I'd give him a mention, he said that he was going to get his wife to download it. So Colin, if you're listening, it was a pleasure to be in your company. Some people say you should never meet your heroes. Don't listen to those saps. Always meet your heroes. Always tell them what they mean to you. Thank them for the memories. Thank them for pinging in 40-yarders past Morecambe in the FA Trophy in the 87-88 season. If that's, it's a pretty narrow Venn diagram, that, isn't it, for hero status? But yeah, so I'm just I'll start with that because that was a real positive meeting Colin.
I think we can end the podcast there, Dave. That'll do for me.
Yes,
but the show must go on.
The show must go on, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, we went into Tuesday night and it was one of them thinking, is there going to be a hangover from that defeat? And, we started all right. I mean, Tranmere, I don't think they had a shot on goal in the first half. Whether they were just sitting in and wanting to see off the wind, I don't know. But, we were getting Ben Whitfield into good areas. You could tell that, that was the plan to get behind their wing back or their full back and get crosses in. But it was the familiar story, wasn't it? There just wasn't enough bodies in the box. And, I was thinking about when we played Walsall and Elliot Newby came on afterwards and said, we've been practicing a lot in training of attacking the far post and this, that and the other. And you're thinking, but surely that's what the tactic still is. They should know that that's what they're doing. And, we go back to, something we said last week about wing, you can't get on the pitch and, kind of move them around like Sabutio pieces. If Tom Barkhuizen's not getting in at the far post, that's down to him. If Mahoney's kind of drifting out of position or stepping on Whitfield's toes, he's got to take responsibility for that. If Earing, who did it brilliantly against Wigan on Saturday, kind of coming into the box and getting on the end of a cross, if he's nowhere to be seen, they've got to take responsibility for these sort of things because, the first half we were dominant without being utterly convincing. But then the second half, it was just so flat. And you think, well, he's obviously not at the half-time interval turn around to him and say, decent half, lads, not great, but decent enough. This half, tell you what, just do what you want. Just hang back. Don't attack balls. Don't do this. Just freestyle. It's fine. So obviously he's paid the price, but his players have let him down. They really have. The inability to execute a game plan, which I would imagine is 99% the same as what it was for the back end of last season when we produced playoff form, because it's the same formation. It seems to me to be the same kind of game plan, and it's just I don't know. It's just fallen to bits and. I don't know. I was just scratching my head by the end of it. Never mind, our friend in the middle with the whistle and his kind of bemusing performance. But I don't know. It was just a very bewildering evening last night.
Yeah, obviously you were there, Dave. I was listening to the comms, and I think you picked up on this phrase as well. I thought Craig Ruther's analysis was pretty bob on, and echoing what Dave was saying there, just about not getting players in the right area, therefore kind of huffing and puffing, but not really having anything to show. And in the first half, that definitely cost us.
Yeah, I think Craig's analysis, because I presume I think he has got like UEFA coaching qualifications and the like. He was really, really insightful. So I think he was saying that like when you're playing that formation, that system, your two number 10s are like key to it. And I think the problem with us in the first half and throughout this season has been the 2 10s have been getting in the way of the wing backs, and the 2 10s are going wide, and you just end up having an overload on one side. You need to have the 2 10s like breaking into the box and getting on the end of things. And in a solid but unspectacular first half, there were some really, really good balls, really good deliveries being put in, but like no one on the end of it. It's like, I don't know, it's a bit of a tale as old as time. Like we like sort of you fear what's coming next, even though we didn't quite anticipate it being as bad as it was, thanks to our friend Mr. Miller from County Durham.
Yeah, I mean, we've got to touch on the referee, Dave. How did it feel when you were there? Because I mean, if there's anything enjoyable last night, the popular side was in fine form. I mean, with a manager under pressure and a must-needed win and a windy night at Holker Street and with a low attendance and a very poor referee, that was all the right ingredients to make it a pretty lively popular side. It certainly sounded like that on the coming through the mic.
Yeah, never mind roll over hot dogs. They need to start selling their blood pressure tablets on the popular side on nights like that. I mean, just overall, it was quite a confusing chap. Like, we were getting booked for first challenges or whatever, and Tranmere were allowed 3, 4, and 5 challenges, and there was stuff going off the ball, which they'd seen, and they were talking to the the Tranmere players and the Tranmere bench, but nothing seemed to come of it. And then I don't know, that free kick for the first goal. That was never a free. Never in a month of Sundays was that a free kick. But then, once he's given it, you have to defend it properly, and Will Stanway's got to do better than that. The way he was lined up, though, from the angle that I was standing at, I was thinking he's left a big gap to his left, so the fella who's taken it's going to kind of curl it round to his right, left, right, whichever way you're looking at it. But he ended up going to the side that Stanway was stood at, and whether he kind of wrong-footed himself, thinking, well, I'll give him the gap and then I'll dive into it, or he'd wrong-footed himself, I don't know, but it was such a narrow gap that he still managed to get it in. And then the second one, I mean, to me, I don't know. I mean, I had a friend at home who was sending me clips and things of footage and whatever, and I had to re-watch it several times to work out whether it was in the area or whether it was on the line or that sort of thing. And then the third one, I mean, Canovan's going away from me. I've not looked at any different angles on this one, but he's kind of he's running away, and all of a sudden their fella's gone down. And you're thinking, well, there's a linesman on that little corner on the popular side, so I imagine he would have flagged for if he's seen Canovan's arm go up, and then Dennis has gone forward, has gone over. He's probably thinking, he's pushed him. So how heavy the contact was, I don't know. I know behind the goal they weren't happy, but obviously that was probably an accumulation of things. But yeah, it just seemed it went from bewildering to confusing to, has this guy actually refereed before? And fair play to Tranmere. They played him like a fiddle. They capitalised on the decisions that they got. Absolutely what a perfect away performance from them, by the way. They've come, a couple of hours up the road, weather conditions are horrible, and they've done us 3-0. Got an opposition man sent off. That, if you're an away fan, you're going home absolutely buzzing for that. So fair play to them. Just wish it was us doing that to other teams, to be honest.
Yeah, on the Canavan one, sort of my overriding sort of feeling is like, we're 2-0 down, the game has gone. Like, I don't see why he would. I'm pretty sure he wouldn't bring someone down on purpose there. At that stage of the game when the game's already gone, I just don't believe that, and it didn't look that way. But no, I think at this level, I think we said when we're doing well under Wild, we're beating the opposition, but we weren't beating the referee. And I think quite often at this level, if you have a first half where you don't take the lead, you almost have to have a 1 or 2 goal head start to make sure that you can overcome some of the refereeing performances. So yeah, it's just like you've seen players in the team, like players like Farron Rawson or players like Jennings for Tranmere, and some of the Tranmere players there, they're able to know how to get the better of the referee, and I think that's always been a challenge of us. And at the moment, we're not playing well, and we're sort of quite.
But we're not an under-17s team who are completely green. You're the likes of Williams, Canavan, MJ Williams, Raglan, Canavan, Josh Gordon, Mahoney. They've got Barkes, and they've got plenty of experience. Whitfield, they've got plenty of games in them. They've got plenty of experience. As I say, it's not like we're getting mugged by the bigger boys, and we're completely green, and we're playing against the masters of the dark arts that we've never seen before, and we're pure as the driven snow, and upholding all that is good and pure about association football in the Corinthian spirit. We've got it in it to do it ourselves, but we've also got it in us surely to spot what's going on and play it accordingly. In fact, someone I was standing with was wondering whether Canavan should have actually been on the pitch, because he's 2-0 down, he's on a booking, the referee's a lunatic. Yeah. Do you not just take him off and just put Shipley on and just, maybe avoid either a second yellow or, obviously what happened, but it's by the by, it's all gone now, isn't it?
On the substitutions, I think it's worth saying just before I forget. So he only made one change from the Wigan game, which I was really, really surprised with, given 120 minutes. Most of the players played most of that. Only bringing Mahoney in for Smith, which is an enforced change, and then only waiting until the 74th minute to make a change. I know it's easy for us to sort of criticise and whatnot, but if you're going to take that approach and get the same group of players to go again, you have to be looking to make changes earlier, you would have thought, because maybe that partially, not to excuse the second half collapse, but there were some tired players out there and some fatigued players, and that possibly didn't help the situation out there.
Yeah, but who put the biggest shift in on Saturday? For me, it was Josh Gordon. So you turn around and look at your bench and think, right, I need to put another striker on. And Innes Cameron sat there looking at you. Are you in any rush to put him on, to take Josh Gordon off? Because I'm not, because Innes Cameron so far done absolutely nothing to me to suggest that he's going to score 2 goals in a League 2 game. He just hasn't. He might be absolutely fantastic in training. He might be a lovely lad, but is he going to score goals when the chips are down and we're desperate for it? No, he's not. Simple as that.
I think you'd have a Emil back over this camera, I think, in terms of input. But yeah, this is where I'm kind of a little bit torn on the post-match interview from Wing, because ultimately I feel sorry for him. I feel sorry for him because I like him, and I think we'll come to that in a little bit about him and his time at Barrow and what led to his eventual sacking. But he starts off his interview and you kind of agree with everything he's saying. You know, we showed that desire to get in the box, getting at the back post, get the number 10s on the edge of the box, picking up them loose balls. We showed that desire against Wigan, but we didn't show it tonight. And you get the sense where he's being kind of let down in terms of work rate and effort. But like you said, Fraser, you know, you got to box clever a bit there because we don't, some of the players, especially kind of Whitfield, he always will spend about sort of 70 minutes and asking these players to play, you know, in a FA Cup tie on Saturday against a higher level opposition on a big pitch like that, a big stadium in pretty dire conditions as well. And then to go again on Tuesday night and expect that same level of kind of intensity. You kind of think maybe you made a rod for your own back there by not mix it up a little bit, or at least making them changes early in the second half when we seem to go a bit flat.
Yeah, you don't often see that sort these days. Like, I mean, like 20 years ago, like you just used to get like people over the Christmas period, 26, 28, same 11 going again. But I think in the world of sports science and whatnot, they do try and rest players a bit more. And yeah, I think I was expecting to see at least Shipley and Newby to start, but yeah, I mean, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you sort of don't a bit. I think his sort of thinking was, we had a really, really good second half. I want to stick with this team. We've got a good momentum from that second half. Glorious failure. We did really well. We went out, let them go again. But yeah, it backfires. It backfires. It's a real shame. It has backfired.
Yeah, and just moved away from the football a little bit, but definitely connected, and we'll segues into talking about Wing sacking, because this might have probably just as big an impact as the results, Dave. The fact that the attendance was, I think, about 1,900 Barra fans there yesterday, if you count for the 200 from the Wirral Peninsula that made the journey, the second greatest peninsula in the northwest. I mean, that is a concern, in it. We haven't won at home since Crewe, and I think this is a point I've took from you in the podcast a couple of weeks ago, Dave, that if that's your access to Barra Soccer by going to Holger Street every other Saturday, and you're not watching games on the dodgy box or travelling away, it's been pretty poor, and the attendances have dropped to almost completely plummeted. I mean, we're down 1,000 last night. And it was a tough sell on a tough night, but that's worrying. I think that's what's kind of, you know, pushed Hornby to make this decision as much as some of the performances on the pitch, albeit they're all connected.
Yeah, I mean, it was a foul night. I mean, driving around, there was a few times going up Lindelil, but I thought I might be taking off at some point. And you've got European football. You've got, let's face it, you've got Barra football on the box as well. You know, the amount of people who've got the dodgy sticks and whatever. And to kind of rouse yourself to pay 20 odd quid to go and stand in the cold and the wet is, it's a big ask with the form that we've been in. And I think it's symptomatic of the fragility of the situation. We've talked on the podcast and various other mediums about, you know, walking that tightrope when you're in the kind of bottom third of League Two, where a bad run of 2, 3, 4 games can really put you in danger of, kind of falling below that line. And we all know the consequences of that. It's your sponsorship money, your broadcast money, your status, your prestige, all that sort of thing. So it maybe does make things a bit more fraught than usual, but I don't know. It just seemed to me that it was obvious then that he'd kind of lost a majority of the fan base. I think Ian Allerton made the point on the Barra Social that I was listening to earlier, which was excellent, by the way. Even Chris, I know you listen, Chris, because he was giving me some stick, which is all fair enough.
Is that Altry on your dartboard behind you there, Dave?
He's a good lad, Chris. He's all right. Yeah, and Ian made the point that, you know, Carlisle have watched 2 seasons of absolute festering excrement, and yet they're still selling out away ends at the back end of last season. They're still, you know, getting big crowds because their fan base kind of got behind the club and kind of thought, well, you know, no matter what's going on, whatever clark's going on the pitch, we're Carlisle and this is how we support our team. Whereas at Barrow, I think it gets to the point of, well, we lose 2 or 3, so let's just sack someone, anyone. like, let's make a sacrifice. And I think historically we've always done that. You know, I did a piece for the fanzine last year. Like, I think I've been watching Barra for 40 years and I've seen 38 managers. You know, it's like the football version of the fall. It's ridiculous. So it just seems to be, we have a bad month and that's it. You know, we're lining up to sack people and we just, oh, well, I'm not going again. And I don't know. We you know, this probably might mean nothing to the listeners, but we talked about like the team barrel thing and the active barrel, whatever it's called, you know, barrel rising and all that sort of thing. And, you know, they were in Parliament saying, oh, there's been cynicism from the local population. And it's just kind of, the attitude is, it'll never happen, but if it does, it'll be shit. And we just have that catastrophization within it. It's just a hair trigger that seems to set everything off. And yeah, to lose that many people through the gate, it's, I don't know. If I'm Paul Hornby, I'm thinking, well, where is everyone? Like, it's not, I mean, we're not in great form, but we're not Bristol Rovers. We've not lost 9 on the bounce. It's, you know, it's a tough watch, but it's not the worst. I've seen a lot worse. And you just think, come on, like, as a supporter base, like, just grit your teeth every now and again and just fucking pay your 20 quid and go. But hey, people can, I'm not going to tell people what they should do with the spare time and the spare money and all that sort of thing. I don't know, Christmas, cost of living, all that. So I completely get it, but you just think those factors apply all around the country. And you just think, fragility, that's the only word I can think about it. As a supporter base, as a club, as a situation, it just feels just feels a bit fragile at the minute.
Yeah, let's come on to the sacking then. Because sort of 10 o'clock last night, I was getting to the point where, right, let's see what happens on Saturday away at Gillingham. Let's see what happens on the return, the fixture against Cheltenham at home next week. If we get 4 from 6, a point at the weekend, win at home next week, things start to feel better. The league is still very much like that, where that'll be a decent return over 2 games and you're likely to jump a few places and things feel a little bit better. Is it 2 games too soon, Fraser, or do you think Hornby's kind of look back at the Clements last season where it certainly wasn't too soon? It was it was about 5 games, 7 games too late. So I think there's a mixture of that involved in his thinking.
That's an excellent question, and I don't have a definitive answer to it. So I said previously that Wigan, Tranmere and Gillingham will be decisive, and it's turned out that Wigan and Tranmere have been decisive. I mean, last night when I went to bed, I was thinking, yeah, it seems doomed. I woke up this morning and was a bit more sort of optimistic and be like, yeah, we can maybe do this on Saturday. Maybe Canavan being suspended is a blessing in disguise. And I think it is slightly on the early side, but I sort of understand why they've done it. And I know I don't want to see anyone lose a job. And ideally, you want to see people hang around a bit longer and get a chance to hang around a bit longer. But I think the nature of football management probably even down to conference, maybe in conference north, you don't get loads of time. It's a fairly fluid sort of in and out the door. It's a shame it's like that. We want people longer. We want people to be successful. But I think if we see our attendances drop in the way they have done, the risk of that trapdoor, which I think, I don't know, we're lucky that there are 2 relegation places. If there was a 3rd one or a 4th one, it would be more justifiable to move managers on sooner. But yeah, I can see why it's been done. I just think there's fairly slim pickings in terms of replacements, which I think we'll perhaps move on to later on.
And when you look back, I mean, we touched on so much just through the podcast, Dave, and it's always going to be a combination of things, but how do you think it's gone so wrong for Wing and he wasn't given as much time to kind of correct that as Clements was last time around?
I genuinely think it was the drop off in attendance that kind of prompted action a bit quicker than Clements, because in terms of form and in terms of league position and all that sort of thing, you know, it's not great, but it's not disastrous, so it doesn't scream a sacking. But I think, yeah, I think the drop off in attendance was probably the big shove. I mean, I know in the in the statement about the investment in the squad and this, that, and the other. I don't know. I don't know in terms of. I don't know what the wage bill is compared. I mean, last year apparently we were 15th in the table for wages. Now we've not been told this year what it is. We might get that if Paul does his annual interview with Cumbria. We might get a bit of meat on the bones there. But I don't know. Are we throwing that much money more compared to last season? With the profile of the player that we've brought in, which would indicate to me that we're taking punts on players because, Tyler Walker was all right 3 or 4 seasons ago, but he's been injured since, and again, injured again. Cameron's record doesn't suggest that, I doubt that there was many clubs in League Two that was after him. We're not signing. I mean, Barkhuizen's got a reputation, but it's not like we've got a squad full of stellar League Two names. It's not like we've gone and said, Michael Cheek, the fabled 20-goal-a-season striker, up you come, son, come and sign for us. That when we go through targets and all that sort of thing, we've all got, we should be doing this and we should be doing that, but you've got to filter it with how much do they want paying? Can we afford it? Do they want to come? Do they want to train on a boggy field on an estate in Manchester rather than a plush training ground? Do they want to, spend the Saturdays getting windswept and piss wet through at Olker Street? You can't force these players to come, so sometimes you have to be, whether it's creative with contracts, giving them a longer one than you'd normally like to, or whether it's the clauses and it's the incentives, or, trying to be a bit clever with stuff. I don't know. I mean, if you've got a fantastic budget and you're paying out, £5 million a year, then you're going to have fewer risks in your squad because that's just how football works. The better players demand the higher wages, but they are more risk-free. They're usually less of an injury risk and they're more reliable in terms of performance. So I don't know. I'd like a bit of openness and transparency and kind of honesty about where we are in terms of budget and where we are in terms of recruitment. Because if we've got a massive budget but we just can't attract players, right, that's an issue. If we've got a poor budget and this is actually the best of the bunch that we could attract, and we've moved heaven and earth, and this is as good as it gets for the budget, right? That's an issue. Or if we're absolutely potless and, we've kind of sold the family silver to kind of get in even what we've got in, well, that's another issue. But I think we just need a bit more kind of visibility, transparency, honesty, openness, whatever you want to call it. Because at the minute, there's a lot of shit flying around in terms of sack that person, it's all their fault. And it's like a lot of things. There's going to be shades of grey. It's not all down to one person. It's a team effort. And when you sack a manager, when Barra sack managers, as we do fairly regularly, I still get quite annoyed, upset, baffled, bemused, because it means there's something wrong at your football club. Unless they've been poached, because they've done absolutely fantastically. If you're sacking your manager, something's wrong with your football club. And this football club means a lot to a lot of people. So if something's not right, it worries me. And I don't know what the answer is. If all of a sudden getting another in with the same crop of players suddenly turns us into Champions League form, brilliant. I don't think it's going to happen. So other changes have to be made as well. And whether it's a change of approach, whether it's a change of personnel, I don't know. But we will not. I don't think that with the squad of players we've got at the minute, it's just a case of a different voice telling them to stand in slightly different positions. I think it goes deeper than that, and that's what we need to see action on next.
Yeah, I think it's tough because there is such a wider context, and I know a lot of this is starting to play out now. A lot of pressure on Wood, his name's getting mentioned, so it's all getting a little bit, a little bit heated. But in terms of Wing himself, that's the situation he had to work within, and it is within his power to change and influence as a football manager of club, certainly in terms of the players that go out and the way they play. Do you think, Fraser, and I'll come to you on this, certain things with the kind of formation, playing players out of position, looking at Jackson in that back three at Wigan, you get a really good vantage point in that bigger stadium. You kind of see how that plays out. Steve's match report, that's on the Given Beans website, now, which you can head there and read, is fantastic in explaining these kind of repurposing of certain players and trying to get things to work that maybe don't work. And do you think that's, we talk about attendances, we talk about what's going on at the football club. Fraser, he's got to take some responsibility for that, for surely, and maybe a new manager might just make a better go at that.
Well, I think if nothing else, maybe the system we're trying to play was perhaps too complicated for where we sort of stand in the league, playing 2 10s behind a number 9. There's a recent fad, I think I heard the other day, it's quite popular for managers in the EFL to play defensive midfielders further forward. And I think we've done that quite a bit in the 10s, playing sort of Scott Smith further forward, putting Jackson in the centre-half position, which I think worked for a bit. I think it was like a deliberate sort of choice to recruit for that system, because we don't have an out-and-out right back. We don't really have Jackson can sort of play left back. There's not a lot of centre forwards. I mean, the ones we've signed have been occupying physio rooms. I mean, the sort of the thing I was thinking, the immediate solution would be to simplify. Let's go, I'm not saying let's go 4-4-2, but like 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3. You could have Barkhays and Whitfield in behind Gordon. That would look quite good. But then I was like, we need to pluck a right back out of someone's arse somewhere. So that'll be another. Yeah, it is sort of like we do have to work with what we've got, and it may have to be a case of square pegs, round holes, just to muddle through. But yeah, I would like to see things sort of simplified if possible.
I mean, we got a lot of stick for being defensive, but if you look at the way that the squad was composed at the start of the season, I think we had 4 centre halves, and then we didn't have a full back. I know everyone says we need a right back, but we don't play with a right back, so we don't need a specialist right back. You can have maybe a more defensively apt wing back, so, so like a Brad Barry or something like that. But he was a wing back, wasn't a right back. He was a wing back, and we've gone with Whitfield, Barkhays, and Newby as kind of like the wide options. So I think maybe the squad was maybe a tad unbalanced at the start of the season, but I think the balance was towards attack, towards getting it forward, towards more of those number 10s, which we did do last season. We had Presley up front as the lamppost, who won the ball in the air. He had Fletcher and Mahoney going past him, and it, by and large, it worked. And then for some reason, it's worked in certain parts of the season, but it hasn't worked week in, week out, or even half in, half out. How many times have we actually played well over the course of 90 minutes? And again, I go back to the players have let him down, because he's not changing. He's not completely ripping it up at half time and saying, right, lads, we're not doing that anymore. Freestyle, do what you want, understand what you want, make daisy chains.
The thing for me, though, I think looking at that, the way, the thing he's in control of and things he can influence, is there a chance maybe his lack of experience as a football league manager has just not allowed him to be able to make the right type of adaptations in circumstances where things weren't working? We've seen things work in times and seen things gel, but for so long now we've seen Gordon completely isolated, and nobody faults Josh Gordon's effort. He must put the most miles in every game. We've kind of seen him in this season, but that's been a problem, and I think that's some things that in-game wing can influence a bit. We've not really seen that through either substitutions or tactical changes for it. And I think maybe that's, alongside everything else in the whole context of the club, that's going to be his downfall as well.
Yeah, it's having that pragmatism and having that ability. Like, I'd rather see us make a change too early and potentially get it wrong than wait too long, especially last night. There's been a few other games. I mean, in the Wigan game in the first half, I said to someone at half time, he's got this format. He's got the attacking players in defensive roles and defensive players in attacking roles. Now, it didn't work in the first half, but whatever happened in the second half, you had Whitfield and Barkhays properly right up there and Whitfield was getting in behind, were having a lot more joy. So it can work. I guess you just want to see that sort of in game. I think with Wing potentially, like, I mean, I don't know him well enough. I don't know if he's quite been himself. It seems to have like been a bit sort of, like, I think Steve mentioned it's suffering from a case of imposter syndrome. Like, sometimes you can be that if you get a big job, your first big job, and you sort of doubt yourself a little bit. And we've seen the sort of the calming influence that Rob Kelly had when he was in a sort of like a console alongside him. That really, really helped him out. But he just seemed to be sort of, it was the first time he mentioned himself, first time he had success at Banbury, success at Solihull. Like the first time he sort of had to feel real adversity, and it's just like it's been a proper challenge for him. I hope he gets, like, I don't know, I don't want to say, because he's probably desperate to be in work. He's a man who just lost his job before Christmas. I hope he gets like a good rest and stuff like that, because it must have like really taken its toll on him.
Yeah, that's the hard thing with Wing, because sacking people like Mark Cooper, I'm not going to lose any sleep over that. But with Andy Wing, I think I really, really wanted that to work out. And it's quite hard when you get emotionally invested in a manager. And he was the type of character that allowed you to kind of get emotionally connected with, because he was very open, really human, really transparent. And you couldn't help but, relate to the guy when he first came to the club. I interviewed him down at the training ground, and instantly you just connected with him. He's such a top guy. We mentioned a podcast a few times, Dave, how kind of in post-match interviews, when things haven't been really going our way, that's really kind of shown in Wing. He hasn't been able to kind of manage and control that maybe as well as he probably needs to. But it's hard. It's hard when you kind of like a guy and a guy feels like a good fit. He certainly felt right for Barra Soccer, Dave, and I think we're all a bit gutted that it couldn't work out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's a bit different to the old days, the non-league days when you could chat to people in the bar and all that sort of thing. But the kind of the vibes that you got from people who dealt with him regularly, that he was a decent bloke, and obviously this was his stage, this was his showcase. And I kind of said, if it went well, I always thought he might leave fairly soon, because he was using us as a stepping stone to progress his career. He's an ambitious bloke. He wants to manage, League One, Championship, or however high he can go. So, there was no question that this was his dream job, and, he was going to stay here for a wasn't going to be like the Rolly Howard for the watermelon vape generation, was he? But it's one of them.
Just say that one again, sorry, Dave. He's not. I quite like that
Rolly
one.
Howard.
It's worth repeating.
Rolly Howard, who was manager of Marine for like 70 years or whatever it was, he sadly died last week. I was 90 years old or something like that. But he was part of the furniture at Marine. He'd been there year in, year out, whether they were winning leagues or finishing 10th or all that sort of thing. He was kind of, he was part of the furniture. And let's be realistic. That's not modern football anymore, is it? The turnover of managers is high. So, yeah, I'm disappointed it didn't work for him, because he's the manager of my football club, so I want him to win games. And, I've had a bit of a go at the players this evening, but I want them to win. I want them to do well. I want them to collect win bonuses every week and spend it on whatever footballers spend the money on, because it's 3 points for my team. So whether the nice people, moderate people, absolute shower of nasty so-and-sos, I don't care. I want them to win for us, for me, for my friends, for my family, for anyone who calls Barrow AFC dear. And I just think that whoever the next person is, are we going to go through the same routine of unveiling them? We get the speech, I'm going to produce a team that reflects you hard-working people, and this, that, and the other. I'm fed up of hearing it, to be honest. I just want someone who can go and coach a team, keep a clean sheet, and score a couple of goals. And I don't really care whether you buy into the area or anything. I don't care anymore. I've heard it so many times. It makes no difference. Coach the team, pick players that win football games, and then get yourself a move. Bugger off after 18 months because you've gone up, rather than because after what do we normally last 8-9 months? We've lost patience with you, and we're running you back down the A590 with a pitchfork and the fire's blazing. Leave through success rather than from being, bloody rubbish.
Yeah, that's when I'm a bit too much of an old romantic. I quite like the whole buy into the area and stories of Andy Wing staying up all night watching history videos on the Furness Railway. So that's, I'm sold on that, especially after kind of Clement's staleness. Yeah, we could go on all night. It is what it is. We've got to move on. And in some ways, I try and pick myself up in situations like this. Thought maybe it's a little bit exciting who we're going to get and what's going to happen. It's been a bit stale of late, so why not look forward to a new chapter? Fraser, you've been doing a little bit of digging in terms of who's out there gagging for a job. Doesn't make too pretty much prissy reading, does it?
No, but I mean, you never know. This list is not exhaustive. So, I mean, compared to when we appointed Wing, I think when we appointed Wing, there was a decent amount of people you could say, right, we could be interested in them. They might be interested in us. So just in terms of out of work managers, you've got your Paul Hurst. He was, I think, linked when Wing was appointed.
He interviewed for it a few appointments ago, and he could not have been less interested. I believe he was arrogant beyond belief and made out that he was doing us a favour, so he can bugger off.
Right, that's him ruled out.
He's going to get a job. He'll be unveiled by Friday.
It'll be like that time when Mark Boyd was slagging out Mark Cooper on Radio Cumber saying, "Oh, they don't want him," and then he got appointed as manager a few months later. Matt Taylor, not the Barclaysman former Portsmouth midfielder, but the former ex-Rotherham and Charlton manager. He's been out of work since leaving Bristol Rovers. He might be interested. He might be like a fairly decent appointment if he's willing to take a job in League Two to relaunch his managerial career. Rob Elliott, I think he would be interested, but I think he would be risky. So Rob Elliott is the former Newcastle United reserve goalkeeper. Had a good spell in charge of Gateshead, playing some quite progressive football, but not as he's not as dogmatic, not as stubborn as Mike Williamson in the way that he plays football. He went to Crawley and he had a thankless task, maybe even more difficult, by signing Rory Feely. And he ended up going, and they brought Matey Boy back in, Scott Lindsay. So he could be interested. He lives near me, so I might if I hang around Tynemouth, I might be able to get away with him. In work managers, so I think there's a few in work ones, but they're like sort of conference north. So Paul Butler from Scunthorpe might be a shout, but he's very scunny. He's done quite a good job there. He's the best out of the conference. And then there's a few doing really well in the National League North. So I think Craig Marn at Fylde's been touted for a while, but I think too risky. Ian Watson, who's at South Shields and has been at Gateshead and MK Dons, out of the Williamson Elliott stable. Too inexperienced, but might be exciting. And then Jason Taylor. It'll probably be Jason Taylor or someone we already know, because what we're doing at the moment has been a lot of bring him home has been used quite widely.
There we go. Very well done, Fraser. I'm impressed.
There we go.
That's if one of them gets it, you might get a job yourself, scouting the next manager in 9 months' time.
I was going to slip into the club's DMs on Twitter, being like, right, there's a striker at Stevenage who signs Presley on loan last season. Get this lad in January. So we'll see how it goes. And everything I touch will probably turn to shit anyway. So
yeah, you get yourself in that patio. Let's move on, because like I say, I really think we could end up talking all night with everything that's going on at the moment and all the opinions flying around. We have got a game at the weekend. Let's hear from our Gillingham fan content counterpart.
Hello, you've reached the offices of Given Beans. All our Beans operatives are busy getting it forward at the moment. Please leave your message after the beep.
Hi, it's Tom here, the host of the ME7 podcast and season ticket holder at Gillingham Football Club for the past 25 glorious seasons. Barrow fans are due to come down to Kent for the long trip next Saturday, with their side not in the best run of form, having not won in the league since October the 18th. But on the flip side, Gills haven't won at home in the last 5 matches, going back to September the 13th, and therefore it's not quite the fortress Priestfield that we've been hoping to see in recent weeks. However, with Gareth Ainsworth back on the touchline now, things are looking up. With 4 successive draws and improved performances, we're hoping to turn the next game into a win against you on Saturday. I personally got fond memories of Barrow, well, sort of, from April 2023 bank holiday weekend. We stayed in a working farm on Broughton-in-Furness and watched as we surrendered a 1-goal lead to go down 2-1 to a 93rd minute winner from Robbie Gotts. But fortunately, at home, we do quite well against you guys and hoping to see the same sort of pattern this weekend. The question that you asked me was about starts of the season and our ambitions. Well, so far, compared to our ambitions in pre-season, it's followed a very similar pattern to previous seasons. We've now been in League Two for a few campaigns, and every season we start very, very well, top of the league almost. But by October, our seasons tend to sort of go on to a bit of a nosedive for one reason or another. And even though it hasn't been as extreme this time around, we've won one in our last 10 matches, indicates that we're on a poor run of form. However, we've been playing well, a bit more encouraging in recent weeks, and we've still got a playoff spot firmly in our sights. We need to start turning draws into wins, and Barrow, I'm sure, will know that. I've previously admired the way Pete Wiles set your teams up from your promotion to League Two. You're a hard-to-beat team, and you've certainly surprised a lot of us in previous seasons. With Cheltenham picking up some points, you might want to start picking up points yourself. At the same time, the clubs below you in the table are hardly putting forward a case for getting out of trouble anytime soon. I might be wrong, but I think Andy Wing would be pretty content with taking a point back with you based on how things are going right now for you. It'll be up to the Gills to force the issue, play our own game, and possibly show the patience needed to break you guys down. In this league, though, form doesn't count for an awful lot, with absolutely nobody wanting to claim promotion spots or get out of the bottom 6. My score prediction is a narrow home win, but if we do find it hard to break you down, I can't see us getting past a 1-1 draw. Hopefully a decent game for both sides, and hopefully your fans enjoy the trip down. And as much as I don't want you to enjoy the day, hopefully you have the best of luck for the rest of the season.
Quick one on this, because obviously it's a long podcast tonight. Fraser, glutton for punishment. You're making the long trip down from the northeast to Kent. Has that been planned in for a while, or do you just like the misery?
It's been planned for a while, and if I don't do it now, I'll never get to go to Gillingham. But it's actually works out quite well. So you've got 3 hours on the train from Newcastle to King's Cross, and then HS1, which goes, I don't know where it goes to Channel Tunnel, I think. Somehow conveniently stops near Gillingham's ground, so you just go from St Pancras to Gillingham, and it's a short walk to the stadium. So yeah, it's one of the easier ones. So, I mean, this morning I was like, oh no, what am I doing? And this afternoon I was like, might be all right. Be interesting. I always find these games with caretaker managers really sort of, they're just a bit weird, a bit of a never zone, I think, and you don't really know what to expect. Could be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, Dave, any thoughts on this one? I mean, how on earth do you kind of not predict, but even kind of think about what could potentially happen?
Well, if sacking the manager is the cure-all, and the players suddenly rediscover the heights of the previous form, and play with a tactical discipline that has been missing for a lot of the season, then maybe we're capable of getting a result. Or maybe we're a bad team, low on confidence, and we're going to get absolutely hammered. I've absolutely no idea, but I hope Fraser has a lovely day. I'm not going this weekend, but I've been to Gillingham a few times myself, and if Kent is the Garden of England, then Gillingham is where next door's cat comes to do its business. But I'm sure that the people are nice enough. But it's one of those places when you kind of have a wander around the place, you think, how on earth do people from the southeast have the cheek to call the north grim when this is part of their ensemble? But I don't know. Don't know how it's going to go. Deep breath, try your best, see what we get. Who knows?
Well, a working farm in Broughton sounds pretty lovely, doesn't it? So maybe we're changing we're changing reputations and destroying stereotypes rather than enforcing them as we often do on Barra on people's trips there. But yeah, I mean, obviously Norman would dive into that a little bit more. And yeah, just like I say, shame the way things fell, because there's so much to talk about from the Wigan game. So many people got in touch with the soccer line as well, leaving thoughts after that game, leaving thoughts after the game last night, and it's just all gone completely out of date in the last, 6 hours. So yeah, apologies for anybody who sent in, but please do keep sending in once everything settles down a little bit, and we can make sure what you say is relevant to the agenda of the podcast. So yeah, another week in the life of Barra Soccer boys. Never a dull day. On to the next one.
There's always next time.
We go again.
Yeah, I just wonder if Dave can get to the age of 80 and what would it be something like 78 managers.
I might have had a turn myself in that rotation.
There'll be a cyborg managing us by then or something. An AI Ian Evatt or other equivalent.
Talking about Ian Evatt and land on a good note with our kind of typical football fan hate watching, they did a right job on Carlisle, and Carlisle just been beat by Woking 3-1 as well. So there's a little bit to cheer you up.
The Woking from home brigade will be furious on the paddock.
Just goes to show it's not all about budget, is it? You can have a massive budget and still not win every week. Still have your weaknesses.
Yeah, or you can be owned by the Punjab Warriors.
Who is the Woking manager?
Neil Hardley.
Yeah.
Right, we'll have him.
Yeah, he'll do. Yeah.
Anyway, fellas, nice one. Until next time.
Cheers.
Cheers, bye.